welcome back to the War Bunker. Quite an exciting game plan today. This is basically going to be an apocalypse-sized game. As you can see, and as you've known from some of the past videos, I've got quite a large collection of Space Marines, and been itching to really play as big a field of army as possible. So which has been building up to this game for a while. Against this Space Marines, I've got another Space Marine faction. These, though, I'm basically using a proxy army here, substituting some of Mantic's Forge Fathers, and to try and basically try out some tactics, see how large-scale games actually play out. Now, it might seem odd, actually. Well, why even bother with a proxy army, especially when I've already owned quite a large Space Marine army. Now, first of all, this isn't really to try and dibble Games Workshop out of money, but it doesn't really make sense for us to have two Space Marine armies. It's quite expensive, and pretty much every time we look at something, we kind of want to collect it for our main Space Marine army, which is the one we get out for tournaments. However, when you do play at tournaments, and you know, Space Marines come in and out of fashion, but they are obviously one of the prime armies out there. More than likely you will be facing other Space Marine armies. So that's why it's kind of useful to have a proxy army of some sort that you can practice on. So in the blue corner we have basically they're called Storm Wolves. They are going to be using the Iron Hands rules. We've got a Storm Raven and two Storm Talons there. The Storm Talons have got lascannons. Storm Raven is carrying some Assault Terminators and also basically an Assault Dreadnought, which is allowed. We have 4 other types of Dreadnoughts scattered around with different types of armour, one of which is going to try and drop in from here behind enemy lines. We have some Bikers. We have a squad of 3 Predators with lascannons, not surprisingly. It's a tank-heavy game. We have a squad of Space Marines in there with a Librarian. And they've got, amongst other things, a telekinetic dome, which would kind of keep the rain from them. We have 3 Vindicators, some real heavy firepower there. We have some Space Marine Devastators with rocket launchers galore. Oh, no, they've got... What am I talking about? Look closer. Those are lascannons. So there's some quite heavy firepower there. We have a Land Raider Crusader with Terminators, and behind that a Land Raider with lascannons, and that's also carrying Space Marines. Meanwhile, on this side, to make up for the fact that this is a much smaller army, I'm basically using this item as a Hellhammer, and over there I'm using that as an Imperial Knight with a Melter Cannon. We have 3 Storm Talon subs. We have 2... where the hell's the other one? Oh, there. 2 Predator substitutes. We have Land Raider, the Flamer Land Raider. We have behind that a lascannon Land Raider. We have 3 sets of Space Marine Devastators with multi-melters. This is basically a Salamander army, so you can imagine that really helps them pack a punch. They're not going to miss much. We have 5 altogether of these Dreadnoughts, which have got multi-melters and heavy flamers. We've got some Thunderfire cannons behind, and that's pretty much it. Obviously a couple of mechanics, and over there we have a Land Speeder. So that's basically both the armies. All that remains now is to work out who gets to play first. The Salamanders have a bit of an advantage. They've got some super heavies, a super heavy walker and a super heavy tank. So basically on a 1 or a 2. And they also have some Librarians as well, with Psychic Shriek powers and Flame Breath. Pyromancy, not surprising, being Salamanders. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a dice on a 1 or a 2. Team Green will get the first go. On a 3, 4, 5, it will be the Space Marines. And this will be kind of useful to actually play out what is it like to try and take down one of these super heavies. As you can tell, it's both a tank heavy armies, but with a bit of infantry so that things like, for instance, the heavy flamers and the crusader over there still have stuff that they can do. Okay, here we go. Not surprisingly, it's Space Marine's first go, so here we go. Catch you later. So this was the end of round one. Much carnage was to be had. Well, first of all, the Imperial Knight is down. The Space Marines, they're both Space Marine. The blue team, let's call them the blue team and the green team, basically took down the Imperial Knight. They managed to skillfully drop pod a multi-melter dreadnought behind it, and it proceeded to miss. Despite having a good shot at the rear armour, it was absolutely dreadful. But basically enough shots, devastator shots, and the lascannons from these guys and the lascannons from this guy basically pretty much demolished it and took it down. They also managed to take down took this down to about 4 hull points, but you can see there's 2 mechanics behind it doing the best to fix it. I need to do something about that next turn. That crashed, unfortunately, but it did manage to deliver a group of Terminators here that then completely failed their assault charges. And in a case of cosmic symmetry, likewise, the Terminators over there completely failed to charge the Vindicators there. So no charge rolls worked at all. The green team have got air superiority. They've managed to nicely use their Storm Talons effectively. Whereas, because basically Storm Talons got quite close to a whole lot of multi-melter Devastators, and of course they've got the special rule that allows them to re-roll misses. They basically managed to take down basically all the air support because it got close enough to have the 2d6 rule, and then that became really difficult for them to basically evade. Over here, the Predators have taken a bit of a battering. They've lost 1, and all the other 2 are down to just 2 hull points. It was actually really useful. These fired as a squad against this, and as a squad like that, they basically, as a squad of 3, they had the Monster Hunter, Tank Hunter special role, which basically helped them get through that 14 armour quite easily. I mean, this thing I didn't think was going to survive the first round, and now it's mobile. It's really doing quite a lot of damage. It's also took out a load of bikers here, and there were, despite them having storm shields, there were some terrible save rolls here. You can see a 1 there, but there was a whole series of 1s. They've really devastated the squad there. Quite an exciting first round. For me, that ends it tonight. I'm going off. This took well over an hour. We're going to play this over a few weeks, but you will see over a few weeks, over a few days, over the course of a week. But you'll be watching this bang, 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 bang. It is interesting. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot to go on, and both forces seem pretty damaged and have blooded each other's nose quite well. It'll be interesting to see if round 2 basically kind of forces the hand of one side a little bit more than the other, and pushes a bit of an advantage. More to come. Well, welcome back to turn 2, and it's been utter carnage. As you can see, our big tank, Escalation tank, has been blown to smithereens, but a lot of heavy firepower finalised by these dreadnoughts charging at it. Those dreadnoughts plus the Terminators there. But that dreadnought's come along, and basically the combined fire from there has basically whittled one of them down. These two dreadnoughts have also fallen prey to some heavy fire from this guy. That's the lascannon Land Raider, and the multi-melter from there also helped to fell one down. That Land Raider's not doing too good. It's down to just a single hull point, if I can zoom in. Whoosh. It's got absolutely hammered. It's immobilised, and basically by this charging in, it charged in. All its Terminators jumped out, jumped at these Terminators. Basically, these Terminators came off slightly the better. They got annihilated, completely annihilated. In the air, the Team Green are really winning. As you remember, basically the air power the blue team's air power was decimated. This flyer is down to 1 hull point, and it's got to fly in a straight line, so it's pretty much off the board next turn. These two have basically taken out their nemesis and taken out the vehicle there, that the anti-aircraft tank. So they're basically free to roam the skies, pretty much unmolested at this point. Well, you need a 6 to hit them, can be fairly difficult. And then they'll evade, so the odds are pretty much on their side at the minute. Predators over here took a hell of a battering. That Predator is gone. That Predator is down to 2 hull points and -1 lascannon. And the guys inside the bunker took a heavy hammering from the Thunderfire cannons there, and basically although it doesn't have much in the way of AP, just enough hits that they just kept failing and failing and failing. So we're down to just 2 guys left standing, and now I'm just kind of like leaving the casualties on the ground so I can remember how things have gone. Utter carnage, kind of like everything's falling apart. Still difficult to say who's going to win. It's kind of interesting that both escalation things are completely down, but there's a hell of a lot on this side that's gone. We've lost a lot of Predators. All the lascannon dreadnoughts are down. These things are moving in for the kill, and obviously with the green team being basically melter gun based, they're kind of very deadly up close, and you kind of want to keep them at a distance. Those Vindicator, we lost a Vindicator, I forgot. We lost a really good Vindicator, as in a really good Vindicator model. You can just see that's been blown up like that. The Vindicators were actually reversing this turn, just trying to get out the range of the Terminators are rushing out and destroying it. But in the process of it, they ended up being well out the range. They wanted to really take that down, but they moved out the range of that initially. But they have managed to really quite punish that Land Raider, which, it'll be a miracle if it's still standing. I'd say, actually, to my utter surprise, I would say Team Green have the slight edge. They have had this, and they simply have had much better dice rolls. But I also think Team Green kind of works better at close range. And if you look at the field in total, they are closing the gap. They're moving a lot closer now, and providing they keep their support from the dreadnoughts pretty good. They've still got a lot of multi-melters on the table still. But obviously when they move, they only hit on a 6, although they do have the ability to re-roll, which gives them a huge advantage. Basically Team Green is a multi-melter army, yeah, really deadly up close. Team Blue is a lascannon army, kind of better at long range, and the real advantage of getting up close, which most of their units have been trying to engage at distance. But as you can see, the number of lascannons that they've had has just been decimated. They basically lost the firepower. This only had 1, but 2 there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They've lost 7 of the lascannons. So it's going to be really hard for them to get back into the fight at this point. And I predict that they're going to kind of crumble. However, they still have a lot of these Storm Shield Terminators, and these guys are really tough. And they are really, if you look where they are they're kind of close up. Going to zoom back out a bit of it. Going to zoom out. They're kind of close to causing real problems. And that unit, that would have been really painful. If that had opened fire this turn, that would have caused a lot of mischief, a huge amount of mischief. So kind of like the target priority is actually working quite well. And they're getting through things. They're just taking a nosebleed. And I mean, to be fair, actually, you know, they've lost quite a few units, but that, you know, when this thing went down, it took 600 points out of the green team. In fact, that plus the Imperial Knight proxy over there is basically 1,000 points. So yeah, for that you can lose about six lascannon predators for the same points, and you know, so maybe things are a lot more balanced than you think. But I still feel really Team Green have the edge, and Team Blue have to be careful because yeah, the temptation is to withdraw. Well, if you look, actually, most of these units are already on the edge. Most of their lascannon units are right on the edge, and these guys are kind of operating forward, but there's no real huge support there. They've got like a dreadnought here, which will need to try and keep close to give them a bit more oomph in close combat, and they've got these, but they're kind of alone, and this is a huge amount of things. They're going to need that 3-up invulnerable save from the shields, and that might not be enough against the sheer weight of power. And it might actually be that, in hindsight, it would have made more sense to really focus on getting rid of some of these troops, particularly these troops with multi-melters, because there's a lot of multi-melter fire coming their way, and it basically caused a lot of pain to anything that tries to rush to their line, particularly in the armour. I mean, that basically caused that's demise, and I think it caused one of these as well in the previous turn. And this turn, it's basically helps take out that ironclad, plus basically wound that one. Very deadly if you get within 12 inches. Anyway, see what round 3 brings. Welcome to end of turn 3. Another round of absolute carnage. It's at least balanced carnage. Inside here, there's you can see exactly a Mephiston. He basically used one of his. Trying to remember what his power is now. Vortex of Doom. See that little plastic thing? That's our Vortex of Doom. D-weapon, it tore this thing a new hole. Completely wiped it out off the table. So one lascannon and Land Raider completely demolished. But there was kind of some reciprocity. So that Scott's taken out. A whole load of troops here have been wiped out. That whole squad's been wiped out from these guys charging at it. Despite soaking up a huge amount of fire, that Land Raider, which is, as you can see, on 1 hull point, is still surviving. Makes no sense whatsoever, but it's still there. These Vindicators tried to move, and they basically opened fire and caused a lot of devastation here to the Devastators that were here, and that Dreadnought tried to finish things off, but that Dreadnought paid the price. These Vindicators basically were wiped out by those 2 flyers that swooped in behind and shot their rear armour and basically blew them up, together with all. As you can see, there's a lot of Dreadnoughts about here that are still hanging on. They seem to be doing quite well, actually. They just really do seem to be hanging on. Whereas over on this side, the blue team just lost their last Dreadnought, basically. So they've really been the business, and as you can see at that close range with a multi-melter, plus they've got the rule that allows them to re-roll, they're pretty devastating. And there's a real tight pocket of the green team left now, and they're doing some good work. Over on the other side, though, our squad of Terminators got reduced to just the captain. What fantastic power did I use on that? It was not mental fortitude. It was psychic shriek. Yeah, this one was nasty beyond belief. And I rolled 3d6. I rolled 2 6s and a 5. Yeah, that's always going to hurt a lot, and basically cause squad to be wiped out. In actual fact, I've miscounted because I thought each of these had 2 wounds, and they've only got 1. Yeah, the commander's dead as well. Forget that, the commander's dead. So that didn't go there, yeah. So, their commander is dead. The green team commander is still alive. I think at the minute, I played out the blue team thing and went, well, this is a done thing. The blue team have won. But the green team have really hammered. Really, really hammered the team. The blues. I thought the blues, because of course the blues have their turn. And you go, yeah, they've done quite well. And then the green team responds, and it's like, ouch. You know, the blue team have got pretty much one land raider, 1 predator, which is slowly regaining its health. In fact, it's now back on full health, but it's still lost. Still lost the whole point. The only person that can repair that damaged lascannon, of course, was vaporised quite early on in the game. We've got some lascannons over there, these are now in hover mode. Yeah, so I'm going to try and use them to whack those guys. So that I'd be surprised if there's any flyers left. Next turn, that one over there is stuck, and it has to basically come off the board next turn. We'll see how it is, but I would be surprised if there's a turn 5. More to come. And round 4, there will be no round 5. It pretty much wraps it up. All that's left of blue team now are these 2 guys. We did decide to open another Vortex of Doom, and that did quite a bit of damage. We took out some of the rest of the flyers were gone by they were basically taken apart by the devastators over there. However, green team, once they get that close, being so multi-melter heavy, kind of like just tore everything to pieces. Oh, sorry, that land speeder's still there. But you know, both sides are really quite low on guys. As you can see, they lost another dreadnought, but the green team have got 3 dreadnoughts left, which are all doing quite a good job. Against all odds, that thing's still standing with 1 whole point, and it's immobilised, despite having been charged and tried to be melted several times, but they missed. But then, of course, Team Blue don't have that ability to re-roll their melters. It's interesting kitting them out with. And of course, they've got so close that they can use flamers as well, which obviously works in the Team Green Salamander favour, as you'd expect. Yeah, because Salamander with their Vulcan guy, basically that they can reroll to wound from flames. They get feel no pain. Was it feel no pain from flames? Yep. And they also get to reroll melters as well. And those 3 together makes a good combination. It means that every time you take a melter gun, it's almost like you're taking it means you are taking a twin link melter. So I packed the army heavily with melter guns and flamers, and it really has paid off. But you really have to get up close. It's that thing of from a distance, you can sting a little bit. Once you get really close, as you can imagine, within 12 inches, you're just bringing the pain. Really interesting game. I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it. Obviously, this kind of scenario is a bit weird when you're just kind of running the scenario on the table and trying things out, because you're trying to both play yourself and play against yourself. I think with such a large kind of apocalypse army, though, with so much heavy guns as well, I suppose in some ways the 2 armies were very like for like. It was really their team rules that made the difference. There's not so much strategy, because they're basically, the armies cover the whole table. There's not much to hide behind initially. Well, certainly not the way I've done it. And so it really is, the 2 sides just kind of hit against each other, and then once holes start to come in the line, you try and work out how to exploit it. Has been interesting packing all the last power over that side, which existed up till this round. You know, it kind of dominated all the way up there, and it did help take that guy out first. Yeah, but it actually felt quite stuck well out the way, and it kind of made some shooting quite difficult. It was like struggling to know what to use my firepower on next. In the end, the kind of bit being able to open the portal and as a depower and just eliminate that land raider in one go was like, wow, that's really amazing. But in an odd way, the green team, it's the smaller units, because all our heavy units are out at this point. We've lost both land raiders. We've lost the land raider there. That one's crippled and barely useless. This big heavy got taken out. That big heavy got taken out. The super duper squadron of land predators got taken out completely. They got taken to pieces completely. All the Vindicators got taken out. So all those big units kind of really suffered, took a huge penalty. But then it's interesting to continue to play on with what's left, and it's interesting because the focus, of course, was the vehicles. It's towards the end there was a fair amount of infantry still left, and still really kicking hard. It was slowly descending into an infantry type game, which I found quite interesting. It was interesting to use these the Psychic Shriek Power and what was the other one? Psychic Shriek was one that I used. The green team had that one, and the Vortex of Doom. That's the other one. So using those two against each other really kind of swung elements of the game. A lot of fun. I just enjoyed it. Just did this over several nights. Really enjoyed just kind of playing it. What I found quite interesting is that when you work on these army lists on paper, you go, "Oh yeah, this will be really good." And even playing against yourself like this, it gives you such a good opportunity to kind of like try out what it's actually like and get you kind of go, well, that's kind of interesting. I didn't think it would quite happen like that. You know, obviously dice rolls is an important part of it. But yeah, it was good. It was very good. What next? Oh, green team wins. Green team wins. What a shame. We should have really put some campaign bits around this, but this was really just for the sheer hell of it to put something together. But I'm sure we'll be playing this out again. And thanks for watching. I hope you really enjoyed it and found it interesting. Kind of stimulated you to kind of go, yeah, let's get some models out and actually be doing some games, even if it's small. But actually try out some of these scenarios about things. What is better is, am I better off taking things like a squadron of Vindicators, a squadron of Predators, or taking like an Imperial Knight, which, by the way, let's not forget, that was 380 points and it did nothing, and now, you know, because it was completely wiped out in the first turn, or, you know, or something like a Baneblade. Are they actually worth it? Is it worth distributing things? I do think, for instance, I got more pain out from, well, certainly my Psychus, and what I use as my Devastators as well. I mean, those guys over there, they basically lost their sergeant when the flyer flew over. But apart from that, they've been completely in the game and used the cover to kind of assist them. Kind of helped by the fact that everything has been going from the big targets, and we've kind of focused on the big targets and whittled downwards. Yeah. Which I think pretty much what most gamers do. They tend to pick a unit, say, I want to get rid of that unit, and they just channel all their firepower to try and get rid of it. And then they move on to the next target. Okay. If you've enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, and we'll catch you later.